Alright, I realize it's been a super long time since I've done any of this kind of video. And in fact, I'm another day late from last week, again, due to a series of extenuating circumstances that I will not bother you with the details of. But, anyway, we're going to continue in what kind of series. I haven't gotten very far, no further than one episode. But this is it. I'm going to continue with my spirituality vlog thing. Whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna do it. Last time I heard very well about the law of nature. And so far for rocks and trees and water and all those other things, what we call the laws of nature might just be a way of speaking. These laws might just mean that these things do in fact behave these certain ways. So they might not be anything above or beyond the actual facts we observe. But in the case of humans, this doesn't work, because the law of human nature, this right and wrong that I talked about, must be above and beyond the actual facts of what humans do, because people actually most of the time do not follow laws of right and wrong. People do so much wrong in this world. So in this case, we have something beyond observation, a law we didn't make up and we know we should obey. But what's this tell us about the universe? People have always been wondering what it is and how it came to be here. So, to use a super broad brush, as it were, there have been two different views. The first is a materialistic view. People think matter and space happen to exist, always have existed, and nobody knows why, or they try to explain it and you can't quite understand it. And matter has just happened by chance to produce creatures who can think about how it happened. Chance after chance after chance has happened. Earth formed in just the right zone, just the right distance away from the sun, which in fact is positioned very strategically in the galaxy, with all these great chemicals and so on, until the chemicals, by so many more millionth chances, form these beings that can think about why they are here. That's the first view. Now, the second view is our religious view, so to speak. So they say what is behind the universe, this law, is more like a mind than anything else we know. It's conscious, it has purposes, and it prefers one thing to another. And to that end, it made the universe with creatures like itself, which is just to say, creatures that have minds like itself. Not any further than that. And both of these views have always been in place throughout human history in different forms. Now, the trouble with this problem, what makes it complicated, is that we can't use science, at least as we know it, to decide or determine which of these two views is superior. Now, why is this? Because science works by observation, by investigations, by watching how things work. And that's useful, and it's very necessary. Science is one of the most useful careers you could go into right now. But it says what, and it can say what, who, in like forensic analysis, and it says how things happened. But does it mention why, at least on the grandest scale? Why is there a universe? Why are there intelligent beings? What's the meaning of all of it? Is there any meaning? Even if we knew everything there is to know about the universe, these questions would still remain the way they are. So if we can't use science to decide which of these two views is better, then what? Are we just doomed to unmeaning? Not knowing which of these two views is better? Not quite. Because there is one thing that we know more than we could get just by observing, and that is humanity. Not observing humans, but actually being humans. We know we have this moral law. Any alien unfamiliar with humanity, not speaking any of our language, and so not able to hear what we think, would, only observing what we did, he wouldn't find evidence of that moral law. In that same way, if there's anything outside, beyond, before the universe, we, by studying the universe, couldn't discover it. Just like how the architect of a house couldn't actually live as a wall or a staircase or a fireplace in that house. And so we turn to the law as our only clue. I'll illustrate this logic with an example. Let's say somebody asks me, when somebody in a blue uniform drives down the street in a white truck and leaves these pieces of paper in various boxes outside people's houses. Now, why should I assume that the paper he leaves in those boxes contains bills or junk mail? And I'd say to that person, well, because he always gives me that same kind of thing. And then that person could say, well, you haven't seen all that other paper that goes in other people's boxes for yourself. And I'd say, well, no, it's not addressed to me. So I explain the paper that I'm not allowed to look at based on the ones that I am allowed to look at. Now, the same thing is true for this question. The only papers I'm allowed to look at are my own human nature. When I do, I find that I'm under this law, that somebody or something wants me to behave in a certain way. That's not at all to say that if I could get into a stone or a tree, I'd find that same exact thing. That's just like how other people might get different mail. The stone has to obey the law of gravity. While the bells tell me to obey the law of human nature, the gravity only tells it to obey its inanimate nature. So in lieu of all that, I take that there is a sender of these letters, a power or a conductor, behind the grand orchestra, as it were. Now, that's all. It's not God. Just a something or a someone. We'll get into what that is next. That sends me this law. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting this series of my channel. I really want to keep doing this type of thing, and it really does help if you hit that like, subscribe right there. Do it, because it does help, and I do appreciate it. And thanks once again. You're awesome. Have an awesome day.